I have just taken level 5 of the Francization program, and here's everything that I think you need to know if you want to sign up for Francisation. What is Francization? The Francization Program of the Ministry of Immigration here in Quebec. The Programme de Francisation de la Formation Générale des Adultes. This is a program designed for newcomers who want to learn French. If you are a resident of Quebec, you've just settled or you've lived here for a longer time, but your first language is not French and you were born in another country, then you can take advantage of the province's free French classes. Because the reality for most of us who've come here whose first language is not French is that if you don't speak French fluently, forget finding a job. I want to start off by telling you about my level of French before taking this course. So technically I've been studying French since I was 13, which is a long time ago. So I'm from Germany. And as part of my Abitur, I had a written French exam. I went to a humanities high school, so my final exams were German, math, geography, English, and French. And I could choose which of the two languages, English and French as a foreign language, were going to be my written exam versus my spoken exam. So I opted for English to be my spoken exam because that was the logical choice for me, who was speaking English on a bilingual level, and then French for the written exam. So once I graduated with the Abitur, I actually already had a B2 in French. But as with any language, if you don't practice it, you will forget most of it, if not all. Since graduating from high school, my French has been very inconsistent. I've had some times where it was really good because I was exposed to the language again, and then other times where I was not using it at all for years, and so the next time I would use it, it was I felt like on a level maybe A2 again. So, you know, my French proficiency would go up and down. On the occasional tip for France, I would improve it again and get some speaking practice and realize, oh wow, there's actually a lot that I remember. And then I wouldn't use it again for several months or years, and then a lot of that would go out the window again. But 2 years ago, I did an internship in New York that was in a Francophone team. In the internship interview, I was able to at least speak a little bit of French to show them that my proficiency was at least intermediate. And of course it helped that before that I was living in Brussels with French-speaking housemates. So this was again a period in my life where my French was strongish. In this internship, I was attending meetings for 6 months straight in French. I would read reports in French. I would write reports in French. And the majority of my work was still in English, but still every day of those 6 months, I was exposed to French, and I was speaking French and slowly noticed that I was getting better and I was able to use it in a work context. Now, at the beginning of 2026, I arrived in Canada from Mexico. I had been living in Mexico before coming to Canada, and naturally, Spanish became my more dominant language, which interfered with my French. I would be in the middle of speaking a French sentence and then I would have to pause, digging around for vocabulary that I couldn't find, and then only the Spanish one would pop up. And the only explanation I have for that is that French and Spanish for me are similar enough to confuse the two sometimes. It's very frustrating, but it's also fascinating to know that a multilingual brain will always throw the words in all the languages around, and then you have to sort through them and find the one in your actual target language. So anyway, I arrived in Canada during a multi-day polar vortex. Temperatures were hitting minus 20 degrees or colder even. I arrived in Canada on a work permit, and so I qualified for taking the Francization course. And so I want to go through what you need in order to be able to sign up for the course. Okay, first of all, the course is entirely free. You can do it either part-time or full-time. I did it full-time, so I can't really speak for what it's like to take it part-time. But if you do it full-time, there's funding available, which can be up to $230 per week that you take the course. The length of the course is 10 weeks per level. You can start as an absolute beginner and go all the way to level 8. Level 8 on the échelle Quebecois, which is the Quebec language framework, translates to B2 on the European framework. So on the Quebec scale, there's a total of 12 levels. Level 12 being the highest there is, so that would be C2. To be eligible for the part-time or full-time cours de Francisation, you need to meet all of the following criteria. First of all, your place of birth needs to be outside of Canada. You need to be at least 16 years of age, and you need to live in Quebec. So when you submit your application online, you have to also send a document proving your immigration status. If you want to apply for financial assistance, you will need your social insurance number or your individual tax number. And according to the website, you can expect your course to start within 50 days of registration. For the application, you have to create an account on the Quebec government website and then submit all your supporting documents per mail. So you have to snail mail your application to the Ministry of Immigration. I submitted my application pretty much immediately after arriving in Canada, so at the end of January, or as soon as I had my social insurance number. And then the following week, I posted all my supporting documents by mail, and then I didn't hear back for weeks. I didn't even get a confirmation of receipt for my documents or anything. You can track the status of your application in your online profile, but it just didn't update for weeks. A month later, I did get a confirmation of receipt. I even tried calling the phone number that they give for, requesting information. Mind you, to sign up for the course, the whole website is in French. And then when you call the number, I don't think you can get English service.
For service in English, please press 9. Veuillez choisir. Hello. Since June 1, 2023, the government of Quebec has been offering all public services exclusively in French, with some exceptions.
When you click to receive English-speaking service, the person that answers the phone answers in French. And then I had to talk to them in French, which was very uncomfortable. I could do it, barely, using the wrong grammar and all that, and not having the right vocabulary to ask her about an update of my application. But imagine being a complete beginner in French. So anyway, a few days after my phone call, I did receive an email update that my application was approved or whatever, and I would receive an email from the school that would ask me to come to the school to finalize my registration. I did all that. Of course, I had to do that in French. I applied to the course January 23rd, and the first day of class for me was April 20th. So a whole 3 months later. If you don't really have a concept of what Quebec French or Quebecois sounds like, when I first arrived in the country, I was like, yeah, I understand French normally, but I don't think I understand this. So Canadian French and European French, in terms of grammatical and lexical structure, the languages are the same. Written French is the same for both Quebecois and European French. But then when it comes to speaking it and comprehending the language, for example, je suis étudiante, you would say je suis étudiante. Je instead of je suis. You don't say voiture for car, you say mon char, mon auto. And then in Quebec, petit déjeuner is déjeuner, déjeuner is dîner, and dîner is souper. You say fin de semaine instead of le weekend. Okay, but not just that. Quebecois sounds kind of twangy. Instead of un, deux, trois, un, I can't even, un, deux, deux. I'm trying to imitate it. I hope I'm not offending anybody. The consonants slightly change if they're before I or E. So for example, dîner turns into dîner with a D, Z sound before the I. Dîner, on peut organiser un dîner. When I arrived, I started working as a barista because I needed to find a job that is more flexible, that I could change to part-time hours once my course started. And some customers I just could not understand. J'aimerais avoir un matcha à la fraise, et un gâteau à la fête. Hey, but you get used to it. Back to the course. I didn't have to take a placement exam. I think that when I came to the admissions office of the school that I was taking the course at, they kind of evaluated me on the go, and they placed me in level 5, which is B1 on the European scale. The class hours will vary by school. Because I took the full-time course, I would have 30 course hours a week, starting at 8:15 until 3:30, Monday to Friday. As a full-time student, you will get a student card from your school, which will give you discounts, for example, for museums or for the Metro card, the Opus card. For the book, we were using Par ici. Oh, let me grab it. All right, let me show you the books that we were using. So we were using Par ici. This is for B1. And of course, if you're learning French, the Becherel, very important. We were actually allowed to use this one in the exam, so don't sleep on that. In level B1, level 5, we covered pronoms compléments directs, compléments indirects, COD, CEI. Some of the subjects were le logement et problème avec logement, région de Québec, info santé, donc le 811 et le 911. Le météo, organisé en fête. And then the tenses that you're honing in level 5 are futur proche, futur simple, passé composé, obviously, imparfait, impératif, gérundive, and we had the introduction to the subjunctive, but that was not part of the exam. So now, because I had B2 before, many years ago, 10 years ago, there was a time in my life where I had already studied all these grammar rules, including the subjunctive, but I'm glad that I took B1 again because I had to go through a lot of that grammar. You should know that your attendance of the course is taken meticulously. As soon as you're over 15 minutes late, it will be recorded. I think you're allowed to miss a total of 12 class hours, which equals to 2 full days of class. So out of the 10 weeks that you're taking a level, you can only miss 2 full days of class. Otherwise, you have to go see the director and talk about why that is the case. As soon as you miss more than 5 consecutive days from the course, you will be immediately unenrolled because you have to take it seriously. Now, at the end of each level, there'll be an exam to evaluate your level of French. We had 4 exams: production orale, production écrite, compréhension orale, and compréhension écrite. I passed level 5, which means I automatically go to the next level, which is level 6, still B1. I have noticed that my French improved a lot. I recently started taking singing lessons, and when I had to go to the office to sign up, I did it completely in French. Also, actually just this morning, I had a phone call completely in French with a doctor's office because I had to schedule an appointment and talk about test results. And so I suppose the goal of Francisation is not just generally learning French, but it is preparing you for a life here in Quebec, because you talk about all these important topics. You know, if you have problems with your landlord, here's all the vocabulary to discuss that le robinet coule, le serrure ne tourne pas, on doit l'ajuster, on doit le huiler. We even went through a full rental contract. And yeah, level 5 is solid for working. But yeah, if you're an immigrant in Quebec, you know that if you don't speak fluent French, if your CV doesn't suggest that you're bilingual, there's no chance. There's no chance, but it might also have to do with the fact that maybe you don't have previous Canadian work experience on your CV, and that is also a problem for you to find work in whatever field you might have studied in. I had a job interview a while back while I was still in the middle of taking the course, and I remember at the end, my interview partner was telling me that actually, no, like this level is solid enough to work in French. From the employer's point of view, this is a solid enough level, but we're not gonna give the job to you because they're gonna give it to someone who's bilingual or a native speaker. So yeah, in my opinion, it's gonna be hard to find anything outside of the minimum wage job sector. And yeah, it's frustrating, especially knowing that I've worked in French before when my French was a little bit worse than it is now. Anyway, I think if you can time-wise afford to take a full-time French program, I think you should. I think it is super valuable, and language courses normally set you back quite a bit. So the fact that that's free and the fact that you could get government funding, I think this is a great program because, you know, if you're in Quebec and you don't speak French, you cannot integrate really well. And it is quite strict. I'm not gonna get fully into it, but Quebec is quite strict with enforcing French being spoken. For example, there is actually a language police that goes around and, you know, checks if, for example, if you go to a store, that there's French customer service available. If, say, the French police comes into the store and they discover that you greeted them in English, fine. This actually happened to us where I work. They came and they looked around and they took pictures of some of my coworkers wearing sweaters with English writing on it. Let me know in the comments if you're considering taking the Francisation course. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to follow along in my journey as I take the next level, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.